Okay. All right, you guys. Hey, it's Friday night. You know what that means? It's another episode of the Redox 5. Coming at you, I'm Dr. Maureen Hayes from Galveston, Texas, where the motorcycle rally is going on this weekend. And I'm joined by Jim and Ann Glenn from San Antonio, Texas. Jim is our big money man, and Ann is our beautiful nutritionist and personal trainer. And of course, we have the illustrious Dr. Lee Osler, usually from Washington State, but partying it up in Las Vegas. Actually, they're teaching people about redox signaling and NRF2. And we have one of our fan favorites with us again tonight, Russell Mariani, who is a gut specialist. He has a health center where he helps tons of people for many years with their gut health. And he's going to talk to us about different reasons that people have issues with their gut. Jim's got a statistic he's going to put up, Jim.
Yeah.
It shows that 57% of Americans actually have some issue with their gut. So this is a huge problem. Yeah. Russell was just telling us, 57. How many is that?
Well, yeah, it's 57%, and that's a huge number, but it's 50, and this is just the U.S. market alone, right. And 191 million people.
Yeah.
We've got a few more to go. So people, hopefully you're sharing this with other people because this is a huge issue. And that's why Russell's always been one of our favorites because he's one of the really extreme experts on global health. So I hope you guys kind of get a picture of why we keep having Mr. Mariani come back and join us. So go ahead, Maureen.
Yeah, he's a gut expert and has written books on this. And we love having him on here. And he teaches us every time he comes on, he teaches us something new. And we were talking to him beforehand because we often get caught up in hydration and how much water you should drink. And I'm sure Russell's going to touch on that. But what we really want him to talk about is gut, because so many people, almost 60% of, like Jim was saying, of U.S. People in the U.S. have gut issues. And Russell was even saying a lot of times when people have difficulty taking the Redox products, it's because their microbiome is messed up. We now know even traditional doctors are now looking at the gut because the microbiome has found to be so incredibly important. And that's so interesting because when I had my education 30-something years ago, we didn't talk about the gut. We didn't even talk about nutrition. We had one day of nutrition. We had an entire year of pharmacology. So we didn't know back then how important this was for overall health. So having Russell here is a real treat. He's got an incredible fund of knowledge on this issue. And Russell, would love for you to come on and kind of take us back to how you learned about Redox, how it's working. And before we get started, let me just stop and say, there's a number of medical professionals on here, but this is not a medical product. We're not here to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent anything. What we have is a health science breakthrough called redox signaling that actually works at the cellular level, kind of gives the blueprint to your cells for what they're supposed to do and energizes them so that they can work optimally. So we're not doing anything with our product. Our product is empowering your cells to do their job, and miraculous things can happen. So go ahead, Russell, take it away.
All right.
Well, thank you, everybody. It's great to be back on the Redox 5 live on a Friday night. I'll just say in terms of background that this year, 2023, I'm celebrating the 50th anniversary of my own self-healing journey. It was back in 1973 at the ripe old age of 18 that I received a very challenging diagnosis. And that diagnosis was that I had an incurable inflammatory bowel disease and that I'd have to be on medication every day for the rest of my life and probably need surgery before I was 25 to remove part or all of my colon. And this was not good news. And I didn't know anything at that time about the connection between nutrition and health, diet and disease, but I had common sense, or at least I think I did. So I asked the doctor who gave me this bad news, do you think this has anything to do with my diet? And his answer changed my life because he said, no, absolutely not. Your condition has nothing to do with your diet. And so I left the office that day knowing two things. Number one, I didn't believe that doctor. And number two, I was going to have to figure this out on my own. So I did. There was no internet back in 1973. So I went to my little local library and found a few books, even back then, that said very clearly that there was a connection. So I went out and found people who were much further down the learning curve than I was, and sure enough, made some fundamental changes to my diet. And a few months later, I was back to normal. And that experience really got my attention. I went back to school to study what we now call functional medicine, functional nutrition. And basically, in the world of functional nutrition and functional medicine, one of the most common things that's said is that everything is downstream of the intestinal microbiome. And so to try to get us, so we hear about this all the time. You know, you were all talking about it as we got started here. Gut health is pervasive. Gut disease is pervasive. Why is gut health so, why is everything connected to our gut health? So one way of thinking about this is, and this will bring us to Redox, one way of thinking about this is when we look at the human body and we talk about health, we're talking about the health of individual cells. If our cells are healthy, then we are healthy. It's as simple as that. Normally, what we think of the body is about 100 trillion cells: bone cells, liver cells, kidney cells, blood cells, brain cells. And that's a big number. But living in what we call the intestinal microbiome, which starts in the mouth, goes down the esophagus or throat, includes the stomach, and then 24 feet of small intestine, 5 to 6 feet of large intestine. If we took this system out of the body and spread it out, it would cover an entire tennis court.
Wow.
Living in that ecosystem is a number of individual cells, 1,000 times 100 trillion. And so if you were to define the human body only based on the number of cells, what we normally think of as our body is only 10% of what we are. So the gut has an enormous impact on the health of the rest of the body. And of all those thousands of trillions of organisms, we're supposed to have 80% of all of it be probiotic, be healthy bacteria. And if a person had 80% or more of their gut microbiome be dominated by healthy organisms, probiotic organisms, they would literally have no negative digestive system symptoms, no gas, no bloating, no cramping, no loose urge frequent, no constipation. But they would also not have any other negative symptoms because their immune system would be normal. They would not have leaky gut. So all of the benefits, all of the positive products made by the probiotics would have a positive effect on everything else in the body. Now,
Hey, Russell, let me interrupt you.
segueing to Redox. Go ahead.
Well, inquiring minds want to know, what did you do? How did you change your diet to make those changes? What kind of changes did you make?
Back in the day, So what led to this fateful diagnosis was about a year before. So in the summer of 1972, I went on a high protein diet where I was eating steak and other meat 3 times a day, 4 times a day, drinking lots of milk, eating lots of cheese, eating lots of ice cream at night. And so if during that year,
With sugar? You were eating sugar. It wasn't Atkins. You were doing sugar. So the ice had sugar in it?
Oh yeah. I was eating lots of sugar and cookies, cakes, but mostly protein, high protein. So meat and dairy and things like that. Okay. If I ate any fiber-rich grains and vegetables in the entire year, it was totally by accident. So
this is what got you sick. I was
yes,
taking.
this is what
I was
got
like,
me sick, the high protein diet. So when I did the original research, and I just found that I basically found articles that said a fiber-less diet, a diet that had did not have enough fiber, was related to a higher incidence of these inflammatory bowel conditions. So I put 2 and 2 together. So I just simply went back to my former diet and added a little more fiber. And back in those days, the fiber supplement was like all brand cereal. There was, but I just started eating more grains, more vegetables. And within a few weeks, everything started to improve. And then, I went to school and learned a lot more to refine that dietary approach. But that was the turning point, and it was pretty simple to do.
So Russell, I don't want to take you clear out of your train of thought there, but I want to go back to, you were talking about a probiotic and a dysbiotic. Could we start maybe and just redefine those? Because the question would be, how would anybody know whether or not they have a dysbiotic situation? Is that something you get tested for, or is that something that you just kind of almost, even if you've got a certain set of signs or symptoms, you'd conclude that you'd be dysbiotic? Could you define those terms for us?
Yes, very good question. So dysbiosis means there's an overgrowth of the wrong kind of organisms in the gut. Symbiosis means that there's a proper balance of the probiotics. There's at least 80% probiotics, and there's been at least 2,000 different kinds of probiotics that have been discovered. The answer to your other question is also very interesting. How do you know if you have dysbiosis? Intestinal dysbiosis. So the easiest way is if you have gas, bloating, cramping, abdominal pain, abdominal discomfort, loose, urgent, frequent, or constipated bowel movements, absolutely 100% you have dysbiosis. And following on what we said earlier, if you have any other negative symptom, anxiety and depression, joint discomfort, muscle spasms, kidney stones, heart issues, you name it, any chronic degenerative disease that exists is connected to gut dysbiosis. So they're completely connected. 80% of the antibody producing cells of our immune system are manufactured in glands in the lining of the small intestine. So if the small intestine is healthy, if the intestinal microbiome is healthy, then your chances of having a normal immune system is far greater. But if you have dysbiosis, intestinal, then your immune system is going to be compromised. And if you have dysbiosis, and we've talked about this several times in previous sessions, if you have dysbiosis, the probability of you also having what's called leaky gut syndrome is close to 100%. And if you have leaky gut syndrome, then the toxins that are supposed to stay inside your intestines leak out into your bloodstream, become systemic, and then go to all your organs and systems and cells. And that's why you have all these that's why the gut affects all other organs and systems throughout your whole body.
So what is the connection with inflammation with all that?
Yeah. So the simplest connection is that the dysbiosis, the dysbiotic organisms produce toxins that cause inflammation in the gut. Okay? That's the easiest way to put it. And then when those toxins become systemic through the leaky gut, then that triggers inflammation everywhere else in the body. Now, let me use this as the segue to Redox, because I was writing something just a couple of weeks ago after these studies came out, from the convention. I kind of sat down and was saying, is there another way to describe what I've known for 12 years now? And it came out something like this: all chronic degenerative disease and all cellular dysfunction is caused by inflammation. All inflammation is caused by oxidative stress. Oxidative stress exists, or oxidative stress occurs when there is an imbalance between specialized molecules called reductants and oxidants. And reductants and oxidants are the two types of redox signaling molecules. So when there is an imbalance and deficiency in any cell of our body between the reductants and the oxidants, we're going to have oxidative stress, and therefore we're going to have inflammation. And so the miracle of this and this is, for the first time in history, we can provide the body with a bioreplenishment product that balances the redox potential, that restores redox homeostasis by supplying both reductants and oxidants. And so the cells that are suffering from oxidative stress, suddenly that oxidative stress is neutralized because of the presence of the redox supplements, which go right into that chaotic situation and start balancing everything out. And so the oxidative stress gets less and less, the inflammation gets less and less, the fire goes out, normal functioning starts happening. Once normal functioning starts happening, the cells look around and say, oh my gosh, what the heck's been happening in the neighborhood? And then can start to repair all that damage that occurred through the very same redox signaling molecules that put the fire out. The same redox signaling molecules can now activate all the mechanisms to repair all the cellular damage. It's quite remarkable. Whether the cellular damage is in the brain or the heart or the lungs or the gut, it's all the same mechanism of detection and repair.
You froze
A
up a
little
little bit, Russell.
Oh, are we
Repeat
back?
that last sentence. Yeah, repeat that last sentence.
Wherever the oxidative stress is occurring, the same mechanism of repair is taking place. And that's the reason that our redox supplements are so helpful and effective, is that there isn't anything more fundamental to the mechanics of cells than signaling. That's what we have. Redox, these are redox signaling molecules. And when we give the body enough of these redox signaling molecules through the redox drink or through the redox gel, the body can reestablish redox homeostasis. And when that begins to occur, the negative symptoms start disappearing. The oxidative stress goes down. The inflammation starts going down.
Russell, in your experience, Leah, were you going to ask something else as a follow-up to that? You look like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to make a statement to everybody listening, and maybe even have Maureen come with her specialty experience, because what Russell just said about the studies that came out relative to inflammation and NRF2, most people think that the downstream outcomes of inflammation are the symptoms of inflammation. And one of the things that is coming from the new studies is, and this new understanding is just what Russell just said, is that inflammation only happens when there's oxidation in the cell. And I can tell you as a health professional, even today I'm speaking to a big room of health professionals and doctors in Las Vegas. When you mention to them and talk to them that inflammation isn't really the culprit, it's oxidation that's the culprit. It's a more upstream, point in the pathway. They don't understand that, because everybody who is quote unquote professionally trained in healthcare is coming at it further down the pathway as an anti-inflammation. They're opposing it after it's already occurred. And this is a unique, fundamentally important part of what we mean when we say inner healer. is we're moving upstream in the pathway, the genetic pathways, to stop the very thing that's in causing inflammation in the first place. Maureen, do you want to maybe flesh that out as a fellow health professional? And they're kind of focused maybe inappropriately on just inflammation.
Well, I think inflammation has become sort of a buzzword. It's something that most people understand, right? Because they have inflammation in their body and they know what that causes, whether it's arthritis or anything else. But you're absolutely right. Long before you get the symptoms, which when we talk about inflammation, we're talking about swelling and heat, maybe fever, things like that, discomfort. Before you get that, you have the response, like you're talking about, the oxidative stress. And so if you can quell that, if you can put the fire out before it causes tissue damage or tissue response, then you're going to keep those things from happening. So we know from some studies that were done that taking this product, replenishing these molecules, actually helps to decrease oxidative stress in the body. That's what causes the overall wellness. And because of the way our products work and how they have that signaling from cell to cell, we're causing, as you always talk about, and you might want to come on and elaborate a little bit on this, Lee, is hormesis. So we're kind of stressing the cell a little bit, so it's in a better position to counteract these things and being able to pivot back to center, so that it's kind of like working out and working muscles. You have a little bit of tissue degradation when you work out certain muscles. As you build them up, there's some remodeling of those muscles. So you go through some negatives before you get the positives, and that strengthens the system overall. Go ahead. What do you, Jim?
Well, my question, again, you guys are the medical experts. I'm kind of the dummy out here that I want a little bit more explanation. What causes oxidative stress? When does that begin? Are we talking as children? I mean, there's so many people, again, 191 million people are dealing with gut issues. Where is it beginning? What is causing oxidative stress?
How deep do you want to go?
My current understanding, Jim, and then I want to hear what Lee says, but this is like the aha moment of the moment as a result of these studies, and going back to the original study in 2017. So first of all, inflammation is an effect, not a cause. Okay. So the cause of the inflammation at the cellular level is an imbalance between reductants and oxidants.
Wow.
It's that simple. Okay. Now, so the body is designed, if proper oxygen is received, if proper hydration is received, if proper micronutrients is taken in, if proper macronutrients are taken in, if you get adequate sleep and rest, if you're exercising, then every cell is getting what it's supposed to be getting, and therefore it will take care of itself and produce out of the mitochondria enough of the proper balance of redox signaling molecules so that everything that the cell is supposed to do, it will do. But when there is a breakdown between the reductants and oxidants, that's the origin of oxidative stress, as I currently understand it. Dr. Osler.
Well, here's a good segue to the gut.
Yeah.
Because you asked the question, what is it that causes oxidative stress? Because we know that's the trigger for inflammation. And in the gut, in the mouth, certainly with oral diseases in the mouth, around the gums and so forth, there are certain proteins, they call them endotoxins, that are on bad bacteria. This applies all the way through the GI system from the mouth to the other end. But in the gut specifically, these bad bacteria have endotoxins, and those endotoxins are you think of them as toxic. That's why they call them toxins. And those, for the physicians and health professionals, are called lipopolysaccharides or pathogen-associated molecular patterns, but the consequence of them on the surface of the cell is they create that oxidation. That's the mechanism of action. So to Russell's point earlier, this difference between probiotic, meaning healthy bacteria, and dysbiotic or unhealthy bacteria is that the unhealthy bacteria have a characteristic about them that they have endotoxins on them, that when they get on our cells, they produce the oxidation inside the cell that then activates what we call the NF-kappa beta inflammatory pathway. That's the whole gene pathway for inflammation. So if we can go back upstream and change the mix of bacteria to healthy bacteria, I'm reducing the causation that produces the oxidation, that produces the inflammation, that produces the disease. And so this is going way upstream to help manage that. That's lifestyle, that's diet, that's proper management of my body, through the things I eat. And this paradigm of I can do something to change that mixture or that ratio of good and bad bacteria is a concept that is lost on a lot of people. They don't understand that as a lifestyle factor, they can change that. And as Russell pointed out, you can heal yourself. That is the inner doctor, the inner healer waking up because you change the environment that it's living in. The same thing is true in the mouth, the things I treat all the time around the teeth, gums and so forth. It's the same things there. You get bad bacteria outweighing or outcompeting the good bacteria because there's a symbiotic balance. You actually have both in there, but it's the relative ratio. And this is why we love having Russell on, because there's, as you said, it's 57% is an interesting number, but I bet 9 out of 10 people, cycle in and out of this, and it's a function of their stress levels, what they eat, what they binge on, what they don't eat, on and on and on, and it comes and goes. So anyway, that's my thought.
Well, this system is real quick. This system is jacked up. I mean, Maureen, when you went to medical school, again, how much time did you spend on nutrition?
Literally, honest to God, one day.
But
Gave us a scope book that showed, tongues and stuff with people with pellagra and, skin conditions. So we had one day, we analyzed our own diets. That was my first year. So I was living on glazed donuts because they didn't look like any part of the body that I was cutting up in lab, so yeah, that was it.
Well, and then, I mean, look at the children, the nutrition, because we're not taught that. I mean, Anne is a nutrition expert. She's lived it. She's one of the few people I know that have ever lived it. But yet our system is just really jacked up that we don't teach this. And Russell, you're just saying it's diet is, again, one of the main causes of causing, it sounds like, the oxidative stress, and the ripple effect goes.
Yeah. So for all the people watching tonight, let's make it really simple. What causes this dysbiosis to occur? What causes the endotoxins to occur? What causes the oxidative stress in the gut, which then can filter out to everywhere else? It starts with simple things like chlorine in our drinking water. Antibiotics. The word antibiotics means to anti-life, against life. It kills bad bacteria, but guess what? It also kills good bacteria.
Hurts the gut. Mm-hmm.
So some of the favorite foods of the bad organisms. So it's really everything that we put into our mouth, everything that we put into our stomach, everything that we put into our intestines is either food for the healthy bacteria or it's food for the bad bacteria. And the favorite foods of the bad bacteria is sugar, alcohol, processed food, additives, colorings, dyes, herbicides, pesticides, things that are not food, things that are not nutritious, highly processed foods, all of those junk foods, the glazed donut that Maureen just mentioned. That's literally when you eat foods when you eat foods like that, and some of those are really not food. When you eat things like that, the dysbiotic organisms go crazy and they grow exponentially very quickly. And that is what causes the toxins to be produced. But that's what causes the dysbiosis. So you could, and it starts as children. Picture a child who is nursed by his mother or her mother, and the mother is eating 100% organic food, has no bad habits, and was vaginally delivered. So that baby received the mother's probiotics coming through the birth canal, and now is eating nothing but breast milk for the first 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months of its life. So that baby, that child, has a very healthy microbiome, hasn't eaten any junk food, hasn't eaten any food yet. And then, God forbid, the mother, something happens and that 9-month-old child has to be put up for adoption. When that totally healthy, 100% healthy in every way, 9-month-old child goes to a foster home, the parents of the foster home feed the children Fruit Loops for breakfast, or some kind of crazy breakfast cereal, and there's candy all around the house and donuts at lunchtime and junk food.
It could be daycare, Russell. They don't even have to go to foster care.
Right. I'm just
They're
Cool.
going to get chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese, right?
So at whatever point the healthy individual changes their diet and starts having more processed food and more junk food than really healthy food, then dysbiosis takes over. And so at the very early stages of that occurrence, that person, whether it's a child, a teenager, an adult, starts getting headaches. That's the first sign of dysbiosis. They get joint pain, they get fatigue, they start feeling anxious, they have nightmares. Every negative symptom is a symptom of dysbiosis. So,
this is so fascinating because, I did just a few weeks ago, I did like an elimination diet, what they call a detox for 7 days. And it was amazing because like even my hip, which is supposed to be replaced, so it sometimes, acts up. That didn't hurt me at all while I was on the elimination diet. Nothing. So, I've noticed a couple of things that really bother me that I didn't realize. Yeah, go ahead.
Maureen, explain what an elimination diet is, please.
It takes out things that are inflammatory, if you will, things that people react to. So there was no red meat on the diet. There was no dairy. And I have realized that I have a problem with dairy, not a gut. Well, it probably is a gut thing. It's almost like an allergic reaction to dairy that I had no idea until I got it out. And then I put it back and I was like, wait a minute, what's happening? Alcohol, no alcohol. So you're taking, no pork, not just red meat, but no pork.
no sugar.
Oh, there was no sugar. Yeah. Sugar was right out. I mean, we all know sugar is bad, but it was interesting. Some of these other things, especially because I do keto a lot. And so usually when I'm doing keto, and that's when you were talking about the high protein, I was thinking you were doing that for, to heal. But then when you were saying ice cream, I was like, that doesn't fit. But I do keto. And when I do keto, I eat a lot of red meat. I eat a lot of cheese. So obviously those things are not really good for me or for my gut. My gut's not really loving all that stuff. So very, very interesting. But, we're talking, some people have been asking about what is a balanced diet. And, these days it really is hard to eat a healthy diet because so much of our food has been modified. And even the stuff that's grown, you want to eat it. It's better to get it locally even than organic. But it's so deprived of nutrition, compared to what like our parents or grandparents ate. So speak to us about that, Russell. What do we do?
Hey, could I ask one question or say something before Russell takes the rest of the answer? And that is, sometimes we say, well, I need a balanced diet. And it's like, what balance between what? I can have so many bad things and so many good things. And so it's therefore balanced. And, I'd like you to go back maybe to what you were just saying, Russell, with regard to what bad bacteria like to eat and what good bacteria like to eat. Because that's the clue is when you walk in the grocery store, you know your body. But if you're feeding them certain types of food, it's like throwing jet fuel on a fire. They love it.
Yeah, so okay. I wanted to say something quickly about dairy because it's controversial for a lot of people. So the way I often like to talk about it is there is no need in the human diet for cow's milk or dairy from cows. The only milk we need is our mother's milk, as all mammals get their milk from their mother, especially in the very beginning of their life. But if you're going to eat dairy in any form, please make sure it's organic, because that way you're not getting growth hormones and antibiotics. So it is important to make that distinction between organic quality and non-organic. In terms of it's a good way of putting it. What Dr. Lee just asked, what triggers dysbiosis and what helps the probiotics? Because that's the question that we need to be asking ourselves. How do I feed the healthy bacteria? And how do I starve the dysbiotic organisms? So basically, if we look at traditional diets, if we look at longevity diets, we're looking at I just watched an amazing documentary on Netflix about the centenarians, the longevity studies in Sardinia, which is a huge island off the western coast of Italy, and Okinawa, which is an island in southern Japan. These are the two highest concentrations of people who live over the age of 100 and are still active. Very active. They're still gardening. They're still walking. They're still socializing. They're doing all kinds of activities. What do these people eat? They eat a traditional diet.
Sardine.
Yes, some sardine. Cooked whole grains, cooked beans, lots of fresh vegetables, lots of cooked vegetables, lots of fermented vegetables, lots of fresh, locally grown seasonal fruits, seeds and nuts, small amounts of fish, small amounts of chicken, small amounts of beef and lamb. But the primary foods, and have been this way for at least 5,000 years, no matter what the traditional society that we look at, this is in the historical record. Weston Price wrote an amazing book in the 1920s called Diet and Degenerative Disease, where he visited the last outcroppings of traditional peoples before modern influence had occurred, before modern diet had occurred. And these people were eating those traditional foods, those traditional diets. So those are the best foods. The favorite food of the probiotics is properly cooked whole grains, properly cooked vegetables. The fibers in the cooked vegetables, cooked grains, and cooked beans are the best sources of fiber. This is what the probiotics live on, munch on, eat, survive on. So if you want to feed the healthy bacteria, these are and fermented vegetables, these are the primary foods that feed those healthy organisms. And we've already talked about the list of foods that feed the dysbiotic organisms. And like Lee said, when you eat those foods or drink those beverages, it's like throwing gasoline on a fire. Sorry, go ahead.
What about, I was going to say, what about raw? You say cooked vegetables. What about raw? Because they have more enzymes and stuff.
Yes. Raw vegetables are fine. In all these traditional societies, traditional diets, there's a certain percentage of raw food and a certain percentage of fermented vegetables, which is, slightly, it's just one step past raw. Now, if you have a compromised digestive system, if you have serious gas, bloating, cramping, if you have an inflammatory condition, raw foods may be difficult to consume, may make your symptoms worse. And that's only because raw foods, even though they contain digestive enzymes, as you said, Maureen, are more difficult to break down if your current condition is that your body's not producing enough enzymes. Okay? So it can be a catch-22. Yes, raw food is very healthy across the board, but depending on your condition, it may be difficult to eat that raw food diet or incorporate raw foods or juices or things like that. So that has to be that has to be taken into consideration.
So
So,
Mediterranean
Russell?
diet.
Yeah, Mediterranean diet is the European version of the longevity diet, and what we call the Okinawan diet or the Ayurvedic diet would be the Eastern version of that longevity diet.
So, Russell, could you respond to maybe there's a redox angle to this as well? Could you respond to the issue of gluten or gluten sensitivity? I know celiac is a word that's thrown out there, which has some genetic components to it that may or may not be dietary, grounded. I don't know, but could you just address that? Because that always comes up with some people that are gluten sensitive.
So I'm going to answer that question about gluten. And I want to get in here before we run out of time that redox signaling molecules feed the healthy bacteria. And this came from conversations 12 years ago with, many of the scientists and early doctors involved with ASEA and redox signaling. So somehow the redox signaling molecules know the difference between the good organisms and the bad organisms. And the redox signaling molecules will feed the probiotics. Okay. So that's an important distinction. Now, the problem that can occur, and this happens anytime you hear about somebody who's having difficulty drinking ASEA or using Renew 28, but it's usually drinking the redox molecules. They get headaches or they can only drink a tiny amount, and they're saying they're having a reaction. Now, it could be because they're not properly hydrated, as Ann pointed out earlier. But almost always, when that happens, it's because that person has dysbiosis. And what's happening is we're drinking the redox molecules, we're causing a proliferation of the healthy organisms. But when you have dysbiosis, it might be 80% bad organisms to 20% or less healthy organisms. And now you start to grow the healthy organisms, but the bad organisms take a look at that and say, no, we're not going to let that happen. And so there's a battle. The bad organisms try to maintain control of the microbiome, and then that results in discomfort, that results in gas, that results in bloating. So it's a difficult situation. You just have to go very slowly, and you have to make sure you're doing more than just drinking redox. You have to be hydrated. You have to eat prebiotic foods. You have to really pull away like a type of elimination diet so that you can make it possible, and you take really good probiotics. You have to be really careful in how you approach this so that you can succeed in growing the healthy bacteria without causing the bad bacteria to fight against it. Now, about gluten sensitivity, what I have found, Lee, in my practice is every single person that I have worked with who was diagnosed with celiac did in fact not have celiac, but they did have dysbiosis. And when we were able to resolve the dysbiosis and create a healthy microbiome, they were no longer hypersensitive to gluten. So that's interesting. Now, it doesn't mean that we should all go out there, eat flour products and wheat products, because, a tiny amount of healthy pasta or healthy bread or healthy, flour products can be part of a healthy diet. But it's really the overconsumption of processed grain, particularly processed wheat products, that contribute to the dysbiosis. But I have found that if you fix the dysbiosis and reestablish a healthy microbiome, then people who are hypersensitive to wheat products and other foods can now tolerate them as long as they're kept in a small amount of the overall diet.
Well, I wanted to keep
It's good news. Yeah, go ahead, Ann.
Well, I just wanted to keep it on track with Redox, as Leah just mentioned. I've been thinking about it because, I mean, I could spend a whole hour just on, healthier eating and better choices and what people should have on their plate and what they should push away. And, maybe they're eating too much after 6 at night, or maybe they're doing fried chicken and they're wondering why their gut hurts. I mean, some people that are listening may not be willing to make a lot of changes because nutrition is an opinion. So there's so many out there over the ages. There's been every imaginable diet around, but people listening are either new to Redox or they're on it for a long time. Maybe they have issues. That's why I brought up in the chat when we were planning for the meeting is to talk about NFR2. We got some new science at convention, and that being the immune system, which is then going to improve the gut. And so, we've got, the chart Jim showed talks about that 57%. That was all related. Those 5 areas are all the areas that SIA, redox signaling molecules, addresses. So we already know if they would incorporate redox signaling, it's going to make everything else in nutrition work better. But if you're not taking it correctly or taking enough, if you've got a brewing issue that's been going on for years and years and years, you may need more than somebody who starts on it and is already considered healthy. So you have to factor in your age, yes, genetics are important, but Ann Louise Gittleman says your DNA is not your destiny. And she focuses on, there are some lifestyle changes, Lee's book, Healthy Matters. Some may choose a healthy lifestyle, but if they don't do all these things in nutrition, fundamentally, they need to get more redox signaling molecules in their body, whether it's, 4 ounces that the bottle says. I recommend if you're over 40 and you're not considered healthy, then you need to jump it up. You need to consider 6 to, 3 times a day to, a cup. And then incorporate Renew 28. I know people who probably have in their cabinet that pink tablet that I'm not going to name names of companies. You chew it and you think it's going to work on your stomach, or you go grab something else that you think is going to work on your stomach. Grab your Renew 28. Jerry used to say, I remember a 3-way he did when somebody wasn't having mobility. He would take the Renew 28 and generously apply it to the lower part of the stomach and start getting some mobility and start getting some movement. And so redox signaling can help in that healing, that self-healing. And then you already mentioned biome. I mean, we have such an exceptional, I have seen overnight changes for people just by adding our biome because of the way it's made and has slippery elm. So if you're not on our products, at minimum, start on redox signaling, get some gel. We just did a gel event last night. Gel is so vital. It's something you need in your cabinet every day. And then maybe consider our biome so you can start getting your gut combined with redox signaling healthier. So maybe, Russell, you can talk a little bit about what I just shared as far as incorporating both and just making some simple changes.
So thank you, Ann. I want to make sure everybody hears what I'm about to say really clearly. I have met hundreds of people at various ASEA events over the last 12 years who had dramatic improvement in their gut health. Many other things, but since we're focusing on gut health, had dramatic improvement in their gut health, and the only change they made was to introduce the redox signaling supplements, the redox drink and the gel. And many of these people that I met, this was before we even had the gel. Yeah. So there's no question because of what redox signaling molecules are and what they do, which is most fundamentally help everything to function better. Everything. Every single function in every cell of the body requires redox signaling molecule to do what they're genetically designed to do. So yes, the absolute most important place to start, if you make no other change, introduce the redox signaling molecules. And if you tolerate, and if you're moving forward and you're not experiencing the benefits or results you're looking for, increase the redox to 8 ounces a day, 12 ounces a day, 16 ounces a day. I'm working with a person right now who, over the last month, about a month ago, she was still struggling. And I said, well, you know, feel free every week to increase the amount that you're consuming by a little bit. And just keep going until you feel an improvement. Now, this is somebody who had appendicitis last spring, had surgery for appendicitis. 2 months later, she had surgery to remove her gallbladder. When I started working with her, she couldn't walk. She had no energy. It was terrible. So about a month ago, you know, along with everything else, but about a month ago, I said, start increasing the redox. And yesterday I talked to her and I said, well, how much are you consuming now? She said, well, first of all, I want to tell you that I started walking this week. I feel fantastic. All my energy is back. I said, oh, fantastic. How much redox are you consuming every day? She said, a whole bottle. She had gradually increased from 4 ounces a day to 8 ounces a day to 16 ounces a day to 20 ounces. She just kept going up. She said, I kept increasing because every time I increased, I felt better and better and better. So it is possible for that to happen. And we all have stories. We all know people who have done that incremental increase. Not everybody, of course, goes to a whole bottle a day. That's a little extreme, and it's not necessary. Let's be clear, it's not necessary. But many people have done that and have experienced dramatic improvement in their gut and in all other parts of their physiology.
Then they can go back to a lesser amount. Maybe she did a short-term bottle.
Correct.
Even I've consumed, I've consumed a whole bottle in a day on an emergency, but obviously I stick to my maintenance, which is 12 ounces because I'm very active, but they don't have to stay at that once they see that change. They can go to a maintenance of 8 or 12, depending on their lifestyle.
Okay, knowing that people's nutrition is not great, can you please real quick, we only have a couple of minutes. We always run out of time with you. The other nutritional products that we have, the Via Source and the Life Max, can you quickly, if you introduce that into someone that maybe does not have the healthiest diet, is that going to help with this whole process?
Yes, 100%. The reason we call them supplements is because we know that people aren't going to make that changes in their diet completely. So we supplement their food diet with food-based supplements. So our product called Source is a superfood. It's a source of vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients and spirulina and chlorella. It contains other superfoods. So this is a great addition to anybody's diet, and every ingredient in the Source is a prebiotic. Biome is my favorite probiotic. You got to trust me when I tell you, everybody's always trying to sell me, Mr. Gut Health Expert, the best probiotic out there. I go to seminars where there are 20 different probiotic vendors. I've tried them all. I've read about them all. This is my favorite probiotic, and it has been my favorite probiotic since I introduced it 3 or 4 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago. Life Max is our antioxidant formula, and it can, again, amazing ingredients, all kinds of plant-based nutritionals, mushrooms, specialized antioxidants. It's our longevity formula, Life Max. Omega is the best source of omega-3 essential fatty acids. Omega-3s are very difficult to get, very difficult to obtain. So to answer your question, yes, if people introduce the Redox supplements and they introduce Source and Biome and LifeMax and Omega, they are achieving not only complete cellular health, but complete whole body health. And if a person does that, I promise you, their health is going to start to improve significantly, and they will be less attracted to the junk food. They'll find it much easier to eat a healthier diet.
Well, and if it boiled down to a budget and they could only get one of our four, I mean, if they did have gut issues, by far the Biome and of course redox signaling, but if they had to get their superfoods, their enzymes, I mean, Carolyn Hoffman is excellent on enzymes. That's all in our Source. It's got the right amount of C algae. It's got the right amount of oils. So the 4 you take per day from our Source is worth that investment. Think of these products as an investment in your health. It's cheaper to be on these than it is to be in a doctor's office. I knew Jim when he did that years ago, and it's definitely cheaper to live a healthier lifestyle the way we are today.
Yeah, Maureen, haven't you said with the LifeMax that you can't, even with the Source, that you can't source that anywhere? And again, because the majority of our foods are so deficient in everything that, I mean, you really almost today, don't you have to be supplementing with nutrition?
Yeah, you just can't eat enough. You can't eat enough greens. And when you look at Source, it's got, like Russell was saying, all the superfoods in it. It's got wheatgrass and, a number of different things besides the chlorella and the spirulina and the enzymes and everything. It's an amazing product. And, you're supposed to take it with food. You really should take it with food so that the enzymes can work on your food as well. I kind of like to try this. Try taking it on an empty stomach. It will not hurt your stomach, or at least it doesn't hurt mine like some vitamins do. And I literally can feel the energy coming. I take all 4 at once and I feel that burst of energy from them. It's amazing to me. Plus, often when you take a lot of supplements, the color of your urine changes. And, if they're water soluble vitamins, you're just sort of peeing them out. Your body is able to assimilate all of this stuff. You will not, your urine doesn't change. It's amazing. You're using that stuff. So I love it. And it's called Source because they meticulously source where they get this from.
Yeah.
The marine proteins are from, pristine waters off of Greenland or Iceland.
Right.
The LifeMax has, like Russell was saying, the LifeMax is absolutely amazing. There's Ayurvedic things in there. There are traditional Chinese medicine things in there. It is an incredible product. If you study it and you look at what some of these things do, your mind will be blown. Anybody who has a big health challenge, I have them on that product. The Omega product that Russell was talking about, you guys, that product is phenomenal. It's omega-3, which is so important for our heart health, brain health, but it also has 5 and 7 in it as well. So it also affects your skin, joints, you name it. It's like a lubricant. And it has astaxanthin in it, which is an incredibly potent antioxidant that they just sort of snuck in there for good measure. And then, of course, the Biome, 16 beneficial strains of bacteria, plus the prebiotics to feed the little bacteria and the slippery elm to keep them in place. You can't go wrong. These are amazing, high quality, well thought out products. So if you can afford them.
Yeah.
I was just going to bring that up, Maureen. I mean, what do you say to the people that go, it's just too expensive? I mean, you have a common response to that. And it's not.
My thing is everybody kind of has a budget for their supplements. I spend a lot of money on supplements. I spend money on stuff other than even the things that I get, but I start with all of our products. Those are foundational. And then there's other things that maybe I need, like a vitamin D or whatever. But these are well-priced products. Go look at the world. You can get cheaper stuff at, maybe Costco or Walmart or something like that, but it's also the quality of the product you're getting. You want to get a product that you feel confident that it's going to do what you want it to do. And like our omegas, that is from wild caught fish that is processed immediately.
Right.
Most you get on the market is already rancid by the time you purchase it. You want something that's going to affect your health. And, you guys, let me tell you, a lot of us have dealt with illness. I was talking about my husband just went through something, a week ago. For one day of parking cost me $25. One day. I mean, that was the parking. That's not even, the cost for the medical stuff. It is really expensive, you guys, to be sick. Invest in your health and you can never go wrong. But get with something, use products that you can trust. So
yeah, Russell, how would you respond to that? We're at the top of the hour, and what would you say to that?
Yeah, being unhealthy is really expensive, and the quality of life, the loss of quality of life, productivity, sick days, creativity. I mean, it's a drag being sick, and it's very expensive being sick. So whatever it takes to be healthy is your greatest wealth. And, it doesn't have to be expensive to be healthy. You have, these products are not overly expensive by any means. These are very cost-effective supplements, and quality does matter. These are premium quality supplements. And in the case of our Redox supplements, they're one of a kind. Redox supplements, the only way to get a Redox supplement is through us.
Yeah. How's your dad doing, by the way?
My dad turned 100 years old on September 22nd.
Wonderful.
And we celebrated by playing golf together, 9 holes of golf. And he's been drinking. He had a little health issue about a year ago, and he's been drinking 8 ounces of ASEA since.
Great.
And he's doing great. He's doing great.
Awesome.
Great.
I was going to have Lee close out. Lee, go ahead.
No, I just want to tell Russell how appreciative we are of having him on as a guest. And he speaks so plainly and frankly about issues that 100% of us have. And your wisdom is great. We all learn together when you're on with us. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
And
thank you very much. Thank you.
No, I was just going to piggyback off of what Maureen said, just because I've priced this stuff. If you go to Trader Joe's, I love Nature's Grocers. That's a local store, health food store. Some go to Whole Foods, depending where you go, because you're not going to find some of this stuff in a normal grocery store. It's going to cost you more to try to get these kind of individual nutrients. And then in our source and in our Life Max, we have proprietary blends that you're not going to find elsewhere. So you're going to get things that they have tested and they know it works. And again, you add it to your next order, use your loyalty reward points, earn it in the business, share with people, then you can earn some of it for free. But they are definitely worth investing in, because you'll see such a difference between what you might be currently doing and how different ours is.
I do want to pop up one slide real quick. That's why I was looking for it. We do a lot of meetings, and everyone has the opportunity to help us bring these cutting edge cellular health products to the world. We are, all of those here right now, Russell, Dr. Maureen, and Dr. Lee, we're making a living while making a significant difference to the world. And so if you are questioning and saying it is expensive, like my dear friend Paul Lozick in Corpus Christi says, that's exactly why we have a compensation plan.
Yeah.
We have something that we can take it's not only the best products on the planet, but it's also a business opportunity. So please get back to the one that brought you onto the call. We have what no one else has, because everything we have is based on Redox fundamentals, either Redox themselves or they all supplement and make Redox work better. Next week, we have I like this guy a lot. We met him at convention, Dr. Ed De La Rosas. He is an MD. His testimonial is really powerful. You do not want to miss it. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was double boarded as well. I think same as you, wasn't he, Maureen?
I believe so. I think he's a pain doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, he was pain and anesthesia.
Awesome.
Yeah.
His story is in real Redox results. So it wasn't just him, but it was relatives he's close to as well.
Maureen, go ahead.
I was just going to say before people pop off, we also have the Zooper Saturday tomorrow morning. It's at 11 to 1 Central Time, 9 to 11 Pacific. And y'all, don't forget, tonight ends the fall in love with your skincare promotion.
Yep.
Make sure that you get those final orders in. That is a phenomenal promotion.
Yeah, $50.
Okay, now
it's savings.
talking about the skincare, can you guys see my screen?
Well, you just passed. There she is.
Can you all see it? Can I
Yeah.
share it? Okay, that's Radiance, guys.
That's why you need
That
it.
is the before and at. Now, I don't know if Phyllis Lane is watching right now, but that is 7 weeks
Yeah.
on Radiance,
Crazy.
the before and after of her arm. And like we say, it's arm power, girl.
That was the only thing she
Now,
made.
she's on all the other products.
Yeah.
She's taken everything else that we have and she added Radiance, and that was the result.
And she's close to 76 or 77.
Yeah, so
So
she is the new arm of ASEA. So guys, thank you. We
Let's
love
say-
you guys.
Jim,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's Discover ASEA again for tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes,
Same as
Discover
tonight.
ASEA. It'll be a webinar. There are 12. Maureen, us will be sharing. We've got some phenomenal. They're adding up the years of experience.
a lot.
It's a lot. So I don't want to name names because I'll leave somebody off. But Ed Weens and again Maureen and Cindy Buck and
Yep.
Jerry White and Marcia and Debbie Wetzler and
Gina Moran.
Gina Moran, Dr. Silverman,
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, there's a good 12.
Anyway,
I know we left.
awesome. If I left you out,
We got the
it's in-
flyer. You can see it on the flyer. It's in United.
so Russell, thank you. This is again one of the most
Always.
informative ones. It's basic to life. And I can't thank you enough for being so willing to come back. You are one of our regular quarterly. We have to have you. There are so many people that need this. And that's why, guys, it may seem like sometimes we have some replication, but we never talk about the same thing twice. So it's always fun. It's always interesting. We use this as a paying it forward. Please invite people to come to these every Friday. You're going to get something. You're going to get valuable information. Real quick, Russell, what is the title of your book in the event anybody would like to know what that is? Your book, Russell.
No diet.
It's called Principle Eating, the No Diet Way to Complete Health. And if you just Google my name,
You'll
go
find
right
it.
to our website. And if you write in the contacts, we'll send you a free ebook version of the book. Happy to do
And
that.
you do consulting.
Yes, we offer
You're
everybody.
you're in the business of helping people.
Yeah, well, we offer everyone a free 30-minute first step conversation again on the website. You'll see that.
Okay.
So
All right,
Google
guys.
my name. Thank you
Russell
guys very much for all you do.
Mariani.
Thank
We
y'all.
appreciate it.
You
We
bet.
appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. It'll be up
Thank you,
on
Russell.
hey Lee, when will it be up on Redox Matters?
It'll probably be later tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
'cause you're out.
So he's again in Vegas
Right.
at a medical convention, so
Yeah.
he'll be home tomorrow. So
Safe.
thank you, guys. It will be up. God bless, and we'll see you next Friday.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks
Russell.
again,
Bye,
Russell.
everybody.
Travels, Lee.
Thanks,
Good night, everybody.
Bye, Maureen.
Bye.
See
Bye
y'all
again.
soon.
Thanks, Russell. Bye.